It's a somber victory Monday, Colts fans. While the Indianapolis Colts came out on top over the Tennessee Titans, all of the attention is on Anthony Richardson and that right shoulder. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here, as always, by my fellow writer and analyst at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, definitely a bittersweet weekend for the Indianapolis Colts. Things get off to a hot start. Jonathan Taylor signs a 3-year contract extension that keeps him in Indy long term. And the game started out pretty well for the Indianapolis Colts. Colts had the lead. Zach Moss was doing his thing. Anthony Richardson looked good. And then while the Colts got the W, everyone is talking about Anthony Richardson and that injury to his right shoulder. So how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. And like you said, it's a somber victory because it showed a couple things. It showed exactly why Gardner Minshew was picked up by the Colts. I mean, holy cow, this guy's been one hell of an insurance policy. So props to Gardner Minshew. But, man, to those who want to win, that's awesome. And that's ultimately an amazing thing to happen this year. But really the Colts' main goal is to develop this young team around a young quarterback like Anthony Richardson. So while the wins are nice, I honestly would prefer to see Anthony Richardson out there developing.
Absolutely. I think that's what all Colts fans would like to see. So tonight we're going to dive into Anthony Richardson's injury, what we know, what we can try to expect. It's going to be hard because we haven't gotten a concrete diagnosis quite yet. Even the Colts don't have a specific timeline, but we'll do our best here tonight. And then we'll dive deep into the Colts victory over the Tennessee Titans and why there is still cause for optimism around this team. Shout out to my glorious and most beautiful wife, Danielle Moore, with the super sticker to get us started out tonight. Danielle not feeling the greatest here, down with a bug. So great that she is still supporting us and really appreciate you. Love you, babe. And then we got the rest of the crew here tonight. Truett is here as well. Truett says JT may carry the team for the next 4 to 6 weeks like Anthony Richardson did. We go 500. We will still be in good shape for the division. So Truett's still holding out hope. Good to see you, buddy. Patrick, the CFO, is here. Colts are good enough to still go 10-7 or 9-8 even without Richardson. The team all around is much better than I think anyone thought. And it seems like that is the case. So we'll just have to kind of see how everything unfolds moving forward. Stats Matt says his attention is on refreshing the insider tweets to see if there is any breaking news about Anthony Richardson's injury. Stats Matt will keep us up to date all night in case that does happen.
Thank you.
Jack Rizzo is here. Good to see you. I know it's been a while since you've joined us live. And then we've got Deep in here as well. 2021 vibes right now, except we have a competent throwing quarterback. so Deep is riding high. We've also want to give a shout out to Sarah as well. AR getting hurt sucks, but Minshew mania. So let's dive right into it tonight, Drake. But first, people, if you haven't followed us already, what are you doing? You need to get on the Horseshoe Huddle train. Like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, not Twitter, on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I go live, whenever Shad goes live, so you never miss an episode. And we're getting closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you can't catch us live or on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star review. So Drake, let's dive right into it. So Anthony Richardson suffered an AC joint sprain in his right shoulder, his throwing shoulder, yesterday versus the Tennessee Titans. Happened with about 4 minutes and some change left in the second quarter. Richardson went out to his right on a design quarterback run, was tackled from behind by Harold Landry, and Harold Landry's body kind of, I wouldn't say he drove Richardson into the ground because that kind of makes it sound like a dirty play. Harold Landry did not do a dirty play on Richardson. Richardson just landed very, very hard directly on his shoulder and immediately knew it. Was immediately laying on the ground, pointing to his right shoulder. And as he walked off the field, he was kind of holding it close to his body, not really allowing it to move whatsoever. So the initial diagnosis after receiving an MRI last night, and Anthony Richardson is going to be receiving second and third opinions, according to reports, is that the initial diagnosis is a grade 3 sprain of the AC joint. So what that AC joint is, it's basically the joint that connects that's connects your collarbone to your shoulder blade up there in your shoulder. And when there's a sprain that happens to it, very, very, very painful to move that arm or move anything around that shoulder area. So it's definitely a significant injury for a quarterback. I've seen some reports out there saying that it's career ending. Wouldn't say that. Whether he needs to have surgery on it remains to be seen. But Drake, I think just really an unfortunate injury all the way around for Anthony Richardson and the Colts.
Yeah, and this is the thing is when you're that large, right, and you're that athletic, you're going to see contact. It doesn't matter how safe you are. I want to throw that out there that he can slide all he wants. Okay, he can dart out of bounds all he wants and avoid contact. He is 6'4", 250 pounds of pure gazelle speed athlete. He is going to run into people sometimes. He's going to run through tackles and whatnot. Now, in this case, he's such a large guy that when he landed on his shoulder, you've got all of that weight compounding on top of it, plus Harold Landry too. And like you said, it was not a dirty hit. It's football. All right, this happens to people in football. It's unfortunate, but it's the name of the game. And so it is unfortunate. He was walking off the field, like you said. He looked incredibly distraught. He had his arm kind of curled up close to his abdomen more so that he wasn't letting it dangle or anything. So I think it is the lesser than what people were expecting it to be. I think that it's good news that it's just a sprain. At least it's not a tear or something worse or a break or anything like that. So for what we know right now, it's looking like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that.
Exactly. The x-rays did come back negative. So good thing there, because if it was a broken collarbone, you're pretty much guaranteeing Anthony Richardson's going to be on the shelf for the rest of the 2023 season. But with AC joints, I mean, they definitely vary by the person and by the grade. But for some context, a lot of times a grade 3 injury, been seeing that it can be 6 to 7 weeks. Sometimes you can do without rehab and come back, versus a grade 1 injury, which is what Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints suffered just a couple of weeks ago. Derek Carr had a grade 1 AC, or was it a grade 2? I think Stats Matt told me it was a grade 2, and was able to come back and play that week. So it definitely varies. But I think the really sad part about all this too, just when you're looking at it, just what happened yesterday, Anthony Richardson was playing pretty damn well yesterday before this injury happened. 9 for 12, 98 yards, had some deep shots to Josh Downs. The offense was rolling, and they had some momentum. The Colts were up 10-6 at that time, and starting to drive down the field once again before that injury. So it really stinks, because it looked like this Colts offense with Anthony Richardson, now while they did come out on top and get the win, it looked like they were going to have a really good game, not only in the running game as we saw, but through the air with Richardson. And I think that's one of the things when you're looking at Anthony Richardson's development, Drake, that makes it sting just a little bit more, because you wanted to see him continue to stay out there, continue to play not only in this game against the Titans, but just get some back-to-back, just get multiple games stacked up upon one another where he can continue to develop and continue building that confidence.
Yeah, and you got another divisional game next week against the Jaguars, I believe. So like you're getting so many of these divisional games. And I think that after this one, they've got one more against the Titans, and then the very last game of the year is the Texans. So holy cow, the Colts had a front-loaded divisional schedule this year. So it does stink. I was really looking forward to seeing how he was going to continue to play the game against such a ferocious Tennessee Titans defensive front. I mean, these guys are really brutal, and they allowed only 2.9 yards per carry going into that game, which was the best in the NFL. I mean, they were crushing running attacks. And so for the Colts to still prevail on the ground the way they did without Richardson really gives you a lot of confidence in the offensive line, and it gives you confidence in Zach Moss for sure. But man, you really wanted to see what Jonathan Taylor would start to kind of look like. And just as he gets out there with him, He's gone for 4 to 6 weeks. So it is a kick in the teeth a little bit, but you know what? It's not season ending. And so far it's trending towards he's going to make a return. And to answer anyone's question, regardless of the record, I do think that the Colts will start Richardson when he's available.
Absolutely. Stats Matt setting the record straight. The Saints never disclosed what grade it was, so I completely must have imagined that or made that up. I don't know where I saw that somewhere, but I thought I saw somewhere Derek Carr had a grade 2 sprain. Patrick coming in here and saying a grade 3 sprain means he actually tore 2 ligaments in the joint, can be healed with rest and rehab, will probably be about 6 weeks. And that's what the initial timeline has been estimated, is about 4 to 6 weeks for this injury. And I also saw a narrative out there, again, because Anthony Richardson has suffered multiple injuries here so early in his NFL career, only 5 games in, or 4 games in technically. You see a lot of people coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Oh, Anthony Richardson needs to do better job of protecting himself." And while I agree in some instances, on that particular play, I don't really know what else Anthony Richardson could have done to really protect himself. What about you, Drake?
No, not at all. I mean, I think he got tackled from behind, I believe, and he was falling anyway. So it's like, I guess the nitpicker out there could say, well, he could have, fallen correctly, which isn't a thing in football. So I think in this case, it's just that he's got little experience. Okay. This was a guy that only started 13 games in college against Division I competition. He's still learning football at the highest level. This is a guy that's getting pushed, I think, faster than a lot of guys have at quarterback ever, maybe even in league history. He's just so inexperienced, and they're still molding him. Okay, so he's learning how to take those hits. He's learning how to fall correctly. He's learning how to, kind of be more aware of who's around him and what tacklers are coming after him. So it's all going to come in time. It's just unfortunate for Richardson that he's had so much kind of compile in just 5 games. It's maybe some of the most I've seen, but I also think, again, he just needs to know where he's at on the field. And in that case, that's just football. That was just kind of a freak accident.
We have our first super chat of the evening from Shaheen G. Shaheen G with the $5 super chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shaheen, for all of your support. Love having you come and join us on the show. Shaheen says, Minshew Mania and Slingin' Sammy season in Steichen we trust. So Shaheen definitely looks like he has confidence in the quarterback room, in Anthony Richardson's stay, and of course the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, who I think has done a phenomenal job so far. So Shaheen, thank you so much for your support and for the super chat. It means the world to us. But Drake, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, on that particular play, there really wasn't anything. Now, there have been times where you would say, okay, Anthony Richardson probably needs to slide there, kind of protect the body. But on that one, that's a quarterback design run. It's not like he saw Harold Landry coming straight for him and decided to lower his shoulder and try to run through Harold Landry. No, Harold Landry ran and caught Anthony Richardson from behind, and just the way he made that tackle, Richardson just landed on his shoulder. He tried to brace himself a little bit with his forearm. That probably didn't, help things, but what else is he supposed to do? Kind of just let his whole face hit the ground. It's your instant reaction is to try to brace yourself a little bit. So on that particular play, no, I don't think there was really anything he could have done. There are probably other things, the other situations that maybe you could pinpoint and say he probably should slide there to do a better job taking care of his body there, but not in this instance. And of course, there's other narratives as well out there, Drake. I know you've seen them online, as have I. Now, again, that Anthony Richardson is injury prone, and this one I think you can have more of an argument than the argument that he should have protected himself better on that hit. I mean, there's definitely a case to be made that he is injury prone, but I also see that the case against it as well. Drake, where do you stand on this debate? Is Anthony Richardson injury prone or not?
No, I don't think he's injury prone. I think that the first couple of times what happened with his ankle, he tweaked his ankle a little bit, and then he got kind of not blindsided in a cheap shot, but just didn't see a hit coming against the Texans. Falls on his head. The same thing happened to Mo Alley Cox yesterday too. I mean, okay, you can hit your head on that turf. It just happens. Okay. And then this just happens to be that he fell wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to say this, but I do think, yes, there is a little bit of the spectrum. You could be like, all right, AR, you need to be more aware. But man, it really does seem like it's just a freak set of occurrences that have happened in a real small amount of time for this kid. And you just hope that in those 4 to 6 weeks, Steichen can maybe teach him some things about what to do. Maybe he's dealt with some injury prone quarterbacks and helped them get back on track. They got to do something, because I know that I don't think it's his fault, but it is a little concerning. And you do want him out there, because the best way he's going to develop isn't by sitting behind Gardner Minshew and watching.
Exactly. And I mean, in my opinion, I don't think he is injury prone. I'm not going to I wouldn't say that. Let me change the wording. I wouldn't put the injury prone label on Anthony Richardson yet. Because I mean, yes, he had the where he got his ankle twisted up in the first game against Jacksonville, or he had the bruised knee, and Steichen said if the game was closer, we could have put him back in there. So that's just more of the simple tweaks and bruises that you're going to get playing football. The concussion, I mean, really nothing he could do about that as far as I mean, yes, he probably should have ran into the end zone to protect his body a little bit. But as far as that fall, when your head hits the turf that hard, yes, that's probably going to be a concussion for anyone. Like you said, with Mo Alley Cox, that just happened yesterday. And then with this one, again, just an awkward fall. There's been some people, including some indie journalists, who I say that both of the times he got injured were on routine football plays. I wouldn't call bashing your head backwards into the turf a routine football play. Everyone's going to get injured on that. When you have a 270-pound defensive lineman falling directly on top of you and putting all that weight on that shoulder, not to mention you weigh a lot of weight, you have a lot of weight too, something's got to give. So, and it hit just right that it caused this AC joint injury for Anthony Richardson. So it's going to be tough. You're just going to have to play with the ups and downs of having a mobile quarterback. This is what life is probably going to be like. Now, you hope he doesn't get injured every other game like he started out for his rookie season. But in my opinion, these injuries are more about just bad luck than they are injury prone. And I think over time, that's probably going to be proven right.
Yeah, and look, it's like you said, when you are a more mobile quarterback, or freakishly mobile like Anthony Richardson, you're just opening yourself up to more risks just by being that type of quarterback, because you have to go out there where you are amongst tacklers. When you're a pocket passer, you might take a wallop from your blind side, but you can also hunker down. You can also fall to the ground. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can kind of limit how hard you get hit if you're a pocket passer. But when you're a runner, man, sometimes you're just going to take a lick. It's going to happen. And like you said, you hope that these injuries don't just start to pile up and he can get a couple years where he's just not really dealing with anything. But look, if he has a game where he's got to sit out over the next 5 or 6 years, a game or two a season, it happens. It happens with Lamar Jackson. It's happened with several different types of mobile quarterbacks. So you just got to hope that he takes care of himself out there, gets a little bit more aware, controls what he can. But the things that he can't control, like that Harold Landry tackle, I mean, they're just going to happen. You just got to deal with it. It sucks, but it's the truth.
And you can't take away the quarterback run game at all,
Exactly.
either, because as Shane Steichen said, and as we've said multiple times when we were evaluating Anthony Richardson as a prospect before the draft, the quarterback run game and his mobility was part of the reason he was such an enticing prospect. And if you take that away, you're hamstringing and you're putting a handicap on your own player, and he's not going to reach that full potential. So yes, it is something that the Colts are going to have to monitor. When Shane Steichen was asked if they need to kind of maybe change things up or not really do as many design quarterback runs, he said it's definitely something that we need to look at moving forward. But you can't just completely take it out of the repertoire. I mean, when you look at the film, and Zach Hicks put this up on Twitter, go to his account if you want to check it out. On the 56-yard touchdown run by Zach Moss yesterday, a big part of the reason for that is because of on that handoff, on that option that where Richardson could have pulled it back and kept it himself. You see the safeties and you see multiple defenders engage on Richardson. You see them coming to Richardson because they're afraid that he's got the ball. That step forward, that half-second reaction allows Zach Moss to hit that hole. And by the time they realize, especially the safeties realize Anthony Richardson doesn't have the ball, Zach Moss is gone. So without that threat, you're not going to be able to get as many explosive runs in the run game. This is why we talked about how Anthony Richardson helps the running game so much. It's because defenders have to be have to be aware of whether he has the ball or not, and have to take that into account, which makes their reaction time a little bit slower, opening things up for Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor when he's back into the full swing of things. So you can't really do that. You have to incorporate it. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to stay healthy, and how are they going to protect him moving forward?
Yeah, and hey, at the end of the day, you just need a half step with the athleticism in the NFL to break away on a 56-yard touchdown like Zach Moss. We're not saying that Zach Moss can't run. He's an NFL running back. He can gallop, but the thing is, he's not known for outrunning people. So yeah, I mean, it was both. I think it was either Will Fries. No, it was Quentin Nelson. I think that had a stellar block that opened up the gap. But like you said, it was the threat of Anthony Richardson that kind of halted that secondary and brought them up for just a second and allowed Zach Moss to get a step or two on him.
Another super chat here, the first one of the night from the CFO, Patrick. Right, thank you so much, buddy, for all of your support. Patrick says, even if they took out design runs completely, taking off and running when a play breaks down is in Richard's DNA. He's still going to be running, and that's a great point, Patrick. And that's, again, one of the reasons why he is so enticing as a prospect, because of the threat of that mobility, because he can extend plays when things aren't perfect, or when the play breaks down, and turn something out of nothing. So he's going to continue to be moving on the run. The days of the standstill drop back passers are over. So there's going to have that mobility and that risk. And while Patrick Mahomes hasn't missed a ton of time in his career, Patrick Mahomes still gets injured on scrambles. We've seen Josh Allen have some injuries. Josh Allen in his rookie season missed almost a month, I think, with an elbow injury. Drake, you already mentioned Lamar Jackson. Jalen Hurts missed some time last year as well.
Matt Stafford did too in his first couple seasons.
Matt Stafford's stats. Matt has the stat in the chat. Stafford missed 19 of his first 32 games with multiple injuries. So this just happens to quarterbacks, and you're not going to have a quarterback that goes multiple seasons without getting an injury like Peyton Manning did back in the day. So Patrick, thank you so much for all of your support, buddy. We can't thank you enough, really, for all of the support that you give us every single episode. It means the world to us. But so Drake, how do you see this thing playing out? I mean, obviously we don't have a concrete diagnosis on him yet, but as far as how long do you think Richardson would be out? Obviously, you said when he is healthy, he's going to come back and be the starter for this team. But how do you see the Colts looking like, and how this playing out with Richardson over the next 4 to 6 weeks?
I really think that they're just going to put his health at the top of the priority list. And I also think that after 4 to 6 weeks, if they look at him and they still think that he might need an extra week or two, they are not going to take a chance in hell of him getting hurt long term. So if they have to sit him for an extra few weeks, they're probably going to do it. But the way I see it playing out is kind of like you said. I think that it's an injury that lasts 4 to 6 weeks. And I do believe that even if, let's say in 6 games, the Colts are, their bye week is, we discussed it, is it week 10?
It's week 11.
Okay, so let's say that by week 10, they're sitting at 7-3, or something like that. If Anthony Richardson is healthy after that bye week, which is actually when I think that they are going to bring him back if they can, is week 12, because you said 11, right?
Correct.
So I think that's a perfect time. If he is healthy, that's a great time to bring him back. But like I said, if they're 7-3 going into that, or 7-4 or whatever, they're probably still going to start Anthony Richardson. In fact, there's no doubt about it. He's going to be right back in, because Minshew, I do think he's going to get to stay with Indianapolis longer than just a year. I think he's earned it. And I think he knows the offense and can help Richardson. But man, at the end of the day, it's about the long term, and that's Anthony Richardson. It's not Gardner Minshew.
Exactly. And looking at how other grade 3 sprains have turned out, I do think that probably what will end up happening is, and this is the hope anyway, obviously can't say this concrete, but grade 3 sprains usually do not require surgery. So you keep him on the mend for 4 to 6 weeks. My guess is the Colts will look to bring him back after the bye. Whether that means a stint on short-term IR, that's fine. That really is fine. So the Colts next, looking at the schedule here, Colts obviously play in Jacksonville this week. Then after that, they have the Browns at home. They have the Saints at home. They travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Kind of sucks. We probably won't see Richardson versus Bryce Young. After that, the Colts are flying to Germany to take on the New England Patriots, and then they have their bye. My guess would be Anthony Richardson hits that short-term IR, and the Colts allow him to rest and recuperate. And then after the bye, they reevaluate things and see if he can get back into practice and open his practice window at that time. And honestly, with how Minshew is playing, the Colts could win multiple of those games. The combined record of those teams is 9-15. So when you take all that into account, especially with how the Panthers are playing, with how the Patriots are playing, the Colts could come out of this and still keep the ship afloat is what I'm saying. So the season is not lost, but obviously you want the health of Anthony Richardson put at the forefront of this, and that's going to be the main priority, not only for this season, but moving forward. So now we've talked about everything that has to do with Anthony Richardson and that injury. We still have a game to talk about here, Drake, and let's kind of get the mood a little bit lighter here for this episode of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. The Colts take down the Tennessee Titans 23-16 yesterday. The first time the Colts have beaten the Tennessee Titans. I think they'd snapped a 5-game losing streak against their division rivals, and the first time they've won at home. The Colts have won at home since October 16th of last year. I was kind of getting sick of watching losing efforts in Lucas Oil Stadium, so it was nice to see the Colts on the other side of things this time around. But when we talk about yesterday's game, we have to start out with the man that wasn't the center of attention yesterday. In fact, the guy that is supposed to be taking his job back, Jonathan Taylor, made his debut. But Zach Moss didn't care. Instead, Zach Moss went out there and had a career best day. What a performance by number 21. And just, I think, further solidifying that Jonathan Taylor may be back, but Zach Moss has a role in this offense.
Yeah, and he averaged like 7 yards a carry against a team that was averaging 2.9 allowed per game coming into the game. Okay. That tells me 3 things. That tells me that I think that there were moments where Anthony Richardson, obviously on that 56-yard run, huge factor. But if we're going to talk about the whole game, we'll remove Richardson in this case. It was the interior blocking that helped Moss get that kind of day. It was his patience and backfield awareness. This dude is very patient when he runs. He doesn't run too fast, too slow. He just has the right amount of patience, and he hits gaps as they open. And honestly, it was downfield blocking too. I mean, we've seen the wide receivers actually do a pretty good job blocking once they get in front of a runner. So, I mean, it was a team effort to get Zach Moss like that. But hey, 23 carries, 165 on the ground, 2 rushing scores, and then he threw in 2 catches for 30 yards on both targets with a long of 26. I mean, right now, Zach Moss is just playing absolutely out of his freaking mind.
195 total yards yesterday, and Jake really nail it right on the head.
Man.
The offensive line did a phenomenal job yesterday. Ryan Kelly being back definitely helped, and I think Ryan Kelly is playing back to Pro Bowl Ryan Kelly level, just absolutely dominant out there at the center position, and that's something that we didn't know if that could happen again because of Ryan Kelly's play over the past couple of seasons. But we've seen a resurgence in his play, and that's something that this Colts offensive line desperately needed. Blake Freeland stepped it up a notch. He wasn't going up against a talent like Aaron Donald, and he certainly did have some struggles in the game, but definitely a better performance out of that rookie 4th-round pick. Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, Will Fries, all really solid to great games. And I don't want to discount the wide receivers either. Pittman, Pierce, Downs, all blocked their asses off yesterday and really got things moving for Zach Moss. But credit to Zach Moss as well, man. I mean, how many times was Zach Moss just stopped in that pile and he kept those legs churning and got an extra 4 to 5 yards? Phenomenal performance by Zach Moss. And I just because, again, let's pump our brakes and saying just because Zach Moss had an incredible game means the Colts shouldn't have re-signed Jonathan Taylor. That's definitely not the case. But man, good for Zach Moss, because we forget too, Zach Moss is in the final year of his deal. So this type of performance and everything, Zach Moss, when he reaches free agency, there's going to be a team that goes out and says, you know what, this kid deserves to be a starter and deserves to be our top running back. So there's going to be a team out there that goes and pays Zach Moss, and he's going to get an opportunity elsewhere next season. But man, what a find, and honestly, when he was included in this trade for Nyheim Hines last year, did you think we were going to be talking about Zach Moss being one of the best running backs in the 2023 season? I certainly didn't.
No, and look, give him credit. I guess it took just the right scheme. It took the right moment for him to show the NFL that he can make these kind of games happen. Yeah, once this season's over, I don't think the Colts are going to re-sign him. I think that he's going to cost too much money for a secondary role. But rest assured, I think he will be either a big, he'll take a lot of carries, the majority of carries for the next offense he plays for, or he'll outright be the running back one, because we're talking about he's had games of 30 carries. He's had now games of 23 carries. He's put up over 100 yards in games like that. So this dude is a grinder, and he's shown that he can make it happen. But hey, I do got to say real quick, credit to Will Fries. He's making me look like a moron for suggesting that the Colts should have signed a free agent guard. Will Fries, this one's for you, buddy. You've proven me wrong. Well done.
And I don't think you have a problem admitting when you're wrong, considering how well Will Fries has played this season for the Colts. But props to this offensive line for turning it around. Tony Sperano Jr. For just reinvigorating this unit, getting back to the details, holding these guys accountable. It's been a fantastic transition and really a great turnaround for this entire unit. But honestly, Drake, I don't know if the offense would have performed as well if they Colts didn't have a serviceable backup, and actually more than serviceable, in my opinion. And I wrote about this last night, came out this morning on horseshoehuddle.com, the best backup quarterback in the NFL in Gardner Minshew. The inside of Lucas Oil Stadium yesterday, soon as Anthony Richardson went down, I mean, there was a lot of buzz around this game. Divisional matchup. Jonathan Taylor's returning. Anthony Richardson starts out hot. Zach Moss with that huge touchdown. Soon as Anthony Richardson went down, the energy, you could just feel it. It just got sucked right out of the building. And the crowd was out of it for quite some time. Gardner Minshew comes in and once again answers the bell when his number is called upon. Goes out there, nothing spectacular, 11 for 14, 155 yards, but he kept the offense moving. He kept the offense afloat, and he got the ball into the hands of his playmakers and just let them go to work. So another solid outing by Gardner Minshew when he needed to be out there for the Colts.
Yeah, and he's just one of those guys that just seems to get the job done whenever he has to. I mean, I remember there was a play where you're thinking, all right, Gardner Minshew mobile. You're not worried about him like you are Anthony Richardson. This dude he goes off to the right. He breaks the pocket, and I think the first down's 2 yards away. This dude puts a spin on one of the defensive backs and leaves him in the dust. And I don't know if he got the first down or if he was short. But man, that just made me say, you know what? What a hell of a backup quarterback. You've got this dude's a gamesman too. He came into this role knowing full well he was the mentor, knowing full well, yeah, he's going to compete for that starting position, but it is Anthony Richardson's to lose at this point, not Minshew's to win. So the fact that he took all that, he knew his role, and he's done so well when he's had to fill it in. Man, credit to Gardner Minshew. I do think it has to do also with Shane Steichen. I do think it has to do with Shane Steichen's offense and how well Minshew knows it. Again, we've said this before. There might not be a guy on the team that knows the offense better. In fact, I don't think there is. Gardner Minshew knows it better than anybody on the offense. So
yeah, and we act like I know when we talk about him being a mentor and everything, some people might get the idea that we're talking about a guy that's in his mid-30s. We got to remember Gardner Minshew's only 27 years old. I mean, he might seem old compared to Anthony Richardson, who's only 21, but Gardner Minshew is still a young player. I mean, he was drafted in 2019, I think was the year that Gardner Minshew was drafted. So he hasn't been in the league that long, but he knows, again, you hit it right on the head, Drake. He knows his role. And while he competed for the starting job and has consistently played his heart out, I think he knew in the back of his mind that this is Anthony Richardson's team. And when he lost that starting competition to Richardson, he didn't mope. He didn't say anything bad. He's gone out there. He has fully supported Anthony Richardson 100%. He's been someone that Richardson can lean on, and he's always been the first one to congratulate Richardson when he does something well. That's what you want in a teammate, and you can tell this Colts team absolutely adores Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew broke down the huddle yesterday when Shane Steichen gave it over to Gardner. Gardner was screaming. The entire locker room was screaming. They love this guy, and it's because he is an A-plus teammate. He's an A-plus person, and it's a blessing to have that type of player on the Colts, because there's definitely not other quarterbacks that around the league that would do that. There's quarterbacks out there that when you ask about a mentor role, they say it's not my job, or I'm not here to do that. Gardner Minshew will do whatever role he is asked for the Indianapolis Colts, whether it's to be the fill-in for Anthony Richardson or to sit on the bench and cheer on the rookie and be that sounding board. And it's a testament to him, his professionalism, and overall just the type of person and the character that Gardner Minshew possesses. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, it's pretty rare because the Colts actually played against somebody yesterday who doesn't like to mentor quarterbacks. Mr. Ryan Tannehill didn't want to mentor Malik Willis. Imagine how pissed off he was when they drafted Will Levis. So
exactly.
Look, Gardner Minshew, he's a dog. He is the consummate professional. He's the best backup in the NFL. He's playing the role perfectly. And hey, think about this. If you don't like Gardner Minshew starting, you can at least think about this. Anthony Richardson gets to have him as somebody to learn from for hopefully the next couple of years, because I think Minshew has deserved to stick around a little longer.
Right. And I want to touch on Shane Steichen real quick too, because before we move on to another player on the offense, but Shane Steichen hasn't wavered during all of this, whether it's Richardson in there, whether it is Gardner Minshew in there. Really just depend. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It seems like Shane Steichen has a plan, and he has this team believing in one another again. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. No, that was last week against when the Colts lost to the Rams. Colts are down 23-0. If that was last year's team or a team under Frank Reich, you're probably talking about a team that loses that game, maybe 38-10, 45-13. Colts not really making a dent there. Shane Steichen has this team believing that no matter the score or no matter how far they're down or who is out there on the field, they can win that football game. You can see the culture of this Colts team really changing before your eyes, and it's a welcome sight, not only for this year, but what Shane Steichen is building with this Colts team for years to come.
Yeah, and you also got to go right down the staff that he brought in. I mean, Gus Bradley, I think he did what he could last season. But I mean, you're talking about Cam Turner, you're talking about Tony Sperano Jr., you're talking about JBC, Jim Bob Cooter. This is an offensive staff that the team likes from top to bottom, and they're all fitting their roles very well. And I got to give Shane Steichen a big shout out to what he's done, but also the hiring of Tony Sperano Jr. That guy has put some kind of fire underneath that offensive line that I haven't seen since 2021. It's a different type of offensive line than what we saw last season. You can go ahead and throw that into the history books because Tony Sperano Jr. has that offensive line on point and focused.
We have another super chat from NFL Nerd. Really appreciate the super chat, NFL Nerd, and your support. And here's your comment that I think goes along with that super chat. NFL Nerd says Steichen's style is constant pressure on a defense.
I like that.
I think that's a great way to put it. Constant pressure, staying aggressive, and staying in attacking mode. And that's what the successful offensive coaches consistently do. So NFL Nerd, we really appreciate all of your support. Fantastic name on here, by the way, and thanks for joining us not only this evening but every evening. We love seeing your name pop up in the chat. Really appreciate it. But Drake, let's move along to the guy that stole the show not only this weekend, but a lot of people wanted to see what he was going to do in the game on Sunday. And that's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, of course, signed that extension with the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. 3 years, $42 million, $26.5 million guaranteed. But we knew that this was going to be a process as he comes back from that ankle injury, was activated off of PUP on Saturday and made his season debut. They weren't going to throw him out there to the Wolves and make him carry the ball 20, 25 times a game. This is going to be a ramp up process for Jonathan Taylor, considering he hasn't played in a football game since last December. So 6 carries, 18 yards for Jonathan Taylor. I think he also had a catch in there as well, Drake, or a catch or two. What do you see out of Jonathan Taylor, and what do you think we can expect from JT in this Colts offense moving forward?
I thought that he looked like a guy who hadn't played in a really long freaking time, and was the first time that he played in a long, really freaking time, or a really long freaking time. So, hey, you know what? It was as advertised. He was not going to go out there and have a lot of carries. I really didn't think that they were going to run him any more than about what they did. So, it was just more than anything good to see him out there. That was just the only thing I was happy to see. I figured he was going to be a little bit rusty. You got to shake that off. And yet, like you said, you're not going to, if they were to throw him out there the first game back, it would be against a bottom tier run defense, not against the Tennessee Titans, who were at the time before this game were smashing running backs. So I think that, like you said, maybe next week you see 10 carries, maybe the following week you see 14. They'll slowly start to give Taylor, I think, more of the target, or more of the running back share, if you will. But Zach Moss has earned himself without question a role in this offense somehow. And I think that they're going to be way more potent with both those guys getting touches.
It was just good to see him back out there again when we didn't know if he'd ever even put on a Colts uniform again.
Gosh.
But yeah, this is what's going to be the plan, to slowly integrate him back into the offense, and then when he is ready, when he's back into football shape, that's when he'll retake over that starting role for this Colts team. 18 yards on the ground. He had that screen pass from Minshew as well, where the Colts got some blockers out there in front of him. He was able to take it for a 16-yard gain. So it was good to see him back. And yeah, I agree. As the weeks go along, we're going to see the Colts continually ramp up Jonathan Taylor's involvement in this offense until he is the number one back again. And then you can have that full 1-2 punch with Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss really, really scare defenses with that combo. But to cap things off on our game recap from yesterday, the defense, Drake, the defense stepped up, only allowing 16 points to the Tennessee Titans, absolutely stifling Derrick Henry, who has been a thorn in the Colts side ever since he was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. 43 yards and only a 3.3 yards per carry average. The Colts never let Derrick Henry break off a big run. They consistently contained him. And on that 4th and 1, when the Titans needed a first down and gave it to their best player in Derrick Henry, it was DeForest Buckner and the Kingslayer himself, Zaire Franklin, stopping Derrick Henry right in his tracks.
Yeah, and look, this is the number one priority for every defense that faces the Titans. You got to stop Derrick Henry. It's very difficult to do, though, and as we've seen, the Colts have struggled so bad with this. But the fact that Ryan Tannehill had a long run of 13 yards, Tyjae Spears had a long of 19, and Derrick Henry had a long of 8. That's pretty impressive. That means that on 12 of the carries, they had him for 35 yards if you remove his long. That's under 3 yards a carry. That's ridiculous, man. We said it, Andrew. It was going to be the defensive interior of the Colts that was going to need to do something here, because, yes, Henry can be that outside runner. He can be that guy that can beat you in a foot race and be just bigger and faster and stronger than you. But he does a lot of his damage, most of it right there in the inside, with those types of interior runs. The fact that the defensive tackles, even Taven Bryan, played better run defense than usual. I mean, they were hungry. They were ready to stop Henry. They did, and it completely threw off the Tennessee Titans game plan, because they do not have the wide receivers to, go into a shootout with the team.
And just having DeForest Buckner back playing his normal workload. I don't want to say that DeForest Buckner is back and healthy, because that's certainly not it. DeForest Buckner is playing through a lot of pain, and he usually is playing through a lot of pain, but he's tough as nails. And even with having a back injury, a groin injury, he goes out there, plays 80% of the snaps, gets a considerable amount of pressure on Ryan Tannehill yesterday. DeForest Buckner multiple times was getting pressure right in Tannehill's face. And I understand Tannehill had 264 yards on the day, but an interception. He was sacked. He never looked truly comfortable back there, and I thought the Colts did a very good job of keeping this Titans offense on their toes. They didn't allow Ryan Tannehill to really take things over on that bootleg action, but of course it all starts with number 22 and stopping Derrick Henry, not allowing him to take over the game, and that's exactly what the Colts did. They made it tough for the Tennessee Titans to really do anything on offense. DeAndre Hopkins maybe withstanding. I know he had about 140 yards yesterday.
He had a good game, yeah.
But at the same time, no touchdowns from DeAndre Hopkins. There were a lot of times where Juju Brents was on DeAndre Hopkins, getting up in his face. I saw DeAndre Hopkins complaining to the officials multiple times yesterday because of Juju Brents. You love to see that. A rookie cornerback going up against one of the best wide receivers in the NFL over the last decade and holding his own. I mean, shout out to Juju Brents. And then I forgot to mention it. Stats Matt, yeah, you can chastise me here, where he says didn't even talk about Josh Downs' coming out party. Well, we'll talk about the rookie now since we talked about Juju Brents. We'll talk about Josh Downs. 6 catches, 97 yards, 2 huge plays. Josh Downs having that similar arc to his rookie season as a young T.Y. Hilton did, a guy that I talked about multiple times, that my comparison to Josh Downs was T.Y. Hilton. Maybe not in the speed, but just in his ability to catch everything and make game-changing plays. And, Josh Downs led the Colts in receiving yesterday for the first time in his career. Definitely not the last.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing that's different between him and T.Y. Hilton is T.Y. Hilton had Andrew Luck. Josh Downs has a rookie who is not anywhere near as ready as Andrew Luck was, and has Gardner Minshew, and this dude has had to flip-flop between both quarterbacks, and he hasn't lost a freaking beat. I mean, Josh Downs has gone out there, and Reggie Wayne has receipts of this. Okay, I'm so proud of Reggie Wayne that he was able to say this. He campaigned for the Colts to get Josh Downs. All right. Mm-hmm. The man knows football, and the man knows his position. He will be a Hall of Famer. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer. And if for no other reason, it needs to be that Josh Downs was his creation in that draft. He was one of the biggest reasons the Colts took a chance on this guy, and he broke the Ballard type of 6 foot or higher. This guy is playing absolutely fantastic football. As him and Richardson grow, he'll become a favorite target for Richardson. I do think there could be a season upcoming where you see Josh Downs get more receptions than Michael Pittman Jr.
It could be. He's developing into that quick wide receiver for Shane Steichen offense. But one last question, Drake, before we move on. Zaire Franklin, superstar in the making or not?
Oh, yeah. I think Zaire Franklin has been one of the nicest, or one of the most amazing stories, especially for the Colts, going from a special teams captain to, shouldering so much when Shaq Leonard was out all last year, breaking the Colts single season tackle record. And now he's on pace to break the league record for solo tackles and combined tackles. I mean, right now, Zaire Franklin has all pro written all over him. He deserves it. He deserves a wonderful contract when it does come up, because right now the Colts have him for absolutely dirt cheap, and it's pretty criminal. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, yes, I think that he is a star in the making. He'll have an all pro before it's all said and done if he keeps this up.
Another 12 tackle performance for Zaire Franklin. I love that he tweeted out the King Slayer after the game. And you know what? Zaire Franklin has earned that, to be called the King Slayer for what he did to Derrick Henry on Sunday. And it's really hard to find very many linebackers that are playing better than Zaire Franklin right now. He has to be in the discussion for top 5 linebacker at this moment in the NFL. And it's still an absolute travesty that he's only rated like a 74 on Madden. Like, grow up. Get your facts straight here. It gives Zaire Franklin Zaire Franklin his props. So let's move along to kind of wrap up the injuries from yesterday and from this week. So we talked about Anthony Richardson dealing with that AC joint sprain, and as soon as more information comes out, I'm sure we'll be talking about it on Thursday. If there's any more information, we'll keep you guys updated. Mo Alley-Cox also suffered a concussion on his lone reception of the day in Sunday's outing. He hit his head really hard on the turf and kind of knew it, that's when the concussion would be coming. And then the three guys that missed the game on Sunday, left tackle Bernard Ryman still in the concussion protocol. You hope to get him back this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Same with Kwity Paye, also missed the game due to concussion protocol, and you need to have him back going up against Trevor Lawrence. You want to be able to have him pressure that quarterback. And then Shaquille Leonard dealing with a groin injury. We haven't heard what the severity of that groin injury is, but that they can be tricky. So you got to hope that can be healed up pretty soon, and Shaq Leonard can get back on the field as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? That's all that matters at the end of the day. I know that we're going into week 6, but still, Shaq Leonard's health matters more than anything, and this could still be something that is lingering. So I know that we kind of talked about if we thought that he was going to return. We just think that the Colts are being very, very cautionary with his return and just kind of his development, getting back to full health. So you just hope that, like you said, that groin injury is not anything worse than what it should be.
Right, exactly. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on those injuries this week, and you're hoping with the guys like Raymond and Paye, they're getting into the final steps of that concussion protocol, and it can be good to go for another big divisional matchup on Sunday. So we've kind of already covered all the latest Colts news and rumors today, Drake. So we're going straight into Colts player of the game. So in that 23-16 victory, Drake, give it to me. Who is your Colts player of the game?
So it came down to two guys, but since we already discussed one of them, I'll go to the one that we didn't discuss, and that is safety Julian Blackmon. All right, Julian Blackmon right now second on the team in tackles with 41. He has 27 on his own. Just alone in that game against the Titans, he had another 5 tackles, and he had the game-sealing interception. Everyone's been talking about Buckner, Paye, Ebicom, Zaire Franklin, and with great reason. Even EJ Speed, Juju Brents, Kenny Moore. No one's talking about Julian Blackmon. No, this dude's actually playing out of his freaking mind, and he is showing why he should be continually staying in Indianapolis. I think that he might, if he keeps playing like this, because he's also in a contract season, is he not? Yeah,
correct.
Like I'm telling you, he's playing for a contract, and I think the Colts have to seriously consider keeping him around if he keeps playing like this.
Blackmon has been impressive, so that's a really good pick. I see the chat continuing to talk about Shaq Leonard's groin. You guys are absolute menaces with those comments in there. But I think we all know which way I'm going for Colts player of the game. Zach Moss. It would be criminal to not make him the Colts player of the game. 195 total yards, 165 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and on a day where the Colts fans were welcoming back Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss said, "Not so fast. I'm here as well." So great to see Zach Moss absolutely dominating. He deserves it. And again, who would have thought that a running back that seemed like just a throw-in piece to that Nyheim Hines trade last year would turn out to be one of the leading rushers in the NFL the very next season. So that's our show for tonight, guys. Really appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us to talk about another Colts victory on a more somber victory Monday, but a victory Monday nonetheless. Want to give a shout out to our super chats for the evening. My beautiful wife, Danielle, Shaheen, Patrick, and NFL Nerd. We really do appreciate all the super chats and all of your support that Drake and I receive for this show. The past 2 weeks, past 4 episodes have just been absolutely off the mark. Going back to last Monday with all the super chats that you guys gave us. Saturday's special episode talking about Jonathan Taylor with another barrage of super chats. It absolutely means the world to Drake and I, and we just the support that we get from you guys, it makes it so much fun to come and talk Colts with you guys every single week. If you haven't done so, please go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know when Drake and I go live, whenever Shad goes live at the Saddle Up Show, so you never miss an episode. And if you can't catch us live, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star review. One last super chat from Patrick to pay for Drake's open bar in his upcoming wedding. You'll love to see it. I'm a man that loves an open bar, especially celebrating my co-host's wedding or nuptials, I guess is the right term for it. So Every penny helps. Thank you so much, Patrick, for all of your support. But Drake, before the wedding, I know you've been dominating, as always, on horseshoehuddle.com with all the pieces that you've been putting out. Drake did a fantastic job while I was at the stadium covering the game. Drake held things down and did a live stream on the Bleacher Report app and did a fantastic job with that. So go ahead and tell the people what they can find on Horseshoe Huddle that you've written.
Yeah, so if anyone's curious about the Jonathan Taylor contract extension details, I covered that. But I did the 3 good and 3 bad in the win against the Titans. And hey, you know what? I do have to say that if anybody's concerned about, which I know that a lot of Colts fans are concerned about Anthony Richardson's health, but hey, at least the team is in good hands and has the best backup quarterback in football to hold things down until the franchise superstar returns.
Absolutely. Make sure you go check those out. For myself, I wrote a big piece detailing why the Jonathan Taylor extension is not only good for their all-pro running back, but it's good for the Colts as well. And I detail everything that happened between the Colts and Jonathan Taylor from both sides to get to that point. So check that out. And then my post-game analysis was on Gardner Minshew and why not only Shane Steichen believes he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL, why everyone should believe he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL. So make sure you go check those out and all the other great work by all of our teammates at horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake on X. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we will be back Thursday night to get you all set for another big divisional matchup as the Indianapolis Colts and Gardner Minshew head down to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who again are tied at the top of the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts. Gardner Minshew revenge game? We'll have to see. So for Drake, I'm Andrew. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you Thursday night.